Hi everybody, Phil from Hybrid Me doing a video that I did 3 years ago during lockdown. It's a guide to golf simulators A to Z. So the flow is going to be following the alphabet rather than going through the different components in area. Now I did this 3 years ago and it took me about 1 hour and 15 minutes. I did it during lockdown. It's on the channel. For people that have got a bit of time in their hands, feel free to check that out. But things have changed a bit. It's 3 years on. And I thought, why not? Let me just do a bit of a brain dump as to what my thoughts are on various things, launch monitors, simulator design, the components that you need. Disclaimer, I do run a business, golf business, which is Hybrid Me. We sell mats, we sell screens, so I am coming in from that perspective. But also, I've been on a simulator tour for probably 10 years now. It's 9 or 10 years and taking part, and I've tried many different softwares. I've rebuilt my sim many different times, and I'm an enthusiast. So I'm just giving you my opinion. Feel free to disagree with it. Feel free to make comments. But this should be a guide for anyone that's new to the subject that might just want to get the thoughts of someone that's been there, done it, and yeah, got the t-shirt. So we'll start with A. I'll be covering more than one thing on A. We're going to start with angle iron. Anybody doing a DIY build, if you're going to go out there and get a company in, you don't need to worry about the things. That's why you're paying the extra money to companies to go and build the whole thing for you. If you're looking at designing it yourself, I recommend, where possible, you go wall to wall and floor to ceiling. It just makes it very easy for a DIY build. And angle iron is something that can really help you along the way. What is angle iron? Let me show you a photo of what angle iron is. It is that stuff. It's the kind of stuff that you see industrial shells from. It makes it easy to just screw it to the wall, screw it to the wall, screw it across the ceiling, and then you've got all those holes to be able to attach your impact screen to. And then it's just a case of being able to put padding or enclosures or curtains or ceiling baffles to kind of cover it all up. It makes life easy. I won't go into more detail. I can do that in other videos. What else? It's a lot easier to work with than building a metal frame out of pipe where you get ricochets. The second aspect ratio, very important with your design. You need to consider how wide, how high are you going to have that enclosure. That will be your aspect ratio, the ratio of the horizontal to the vertical, yeah, horizontal to vertical. So, in the ideal situation, you'll be getting a projector that's probably widescreen. It might be 16 by 9 or it might be 16 by 10, depending on the type of projector you've got. And you can design your enclosure around that, and that'll give you a lovely widescreen image that, by turning on the projector, as long as you've worked out the throw distance, it will give you the image you want. If you're limited on width, then you may end up going for a kind of custom size. It might be like, 3.2 meters by 3 meters high. In that case, you're going to be wanting to probably create a custom resolution on your PC to be able to effectively squash that image into filling your screen. And that's going to be something that you can do. There's lots of videos out there. You can contact me and I'll point you to videos, but always worth considering that aspect ratio. I'm yet to have a customer come back and say, I wish I'd gone smaller with my simulator. So if you are considering, do I really need 4.5 or 5 meters width? Why don't I just do it with 3.5? Most of the time you'll benefit from doing that, and it will make you think, oh, I wish I had gone bigger. Having that widescreen image does allow you to do things like projecting sports and movies without having to change the kind of resolution that you're using, and basically make sure that every pixel from your projector is being displayed. Oh, I can realise I'm going to do well to beat 1 hour and a quarter. And the third aspect is archery. Archery netting, baffle netting as it's sometimes called, can be a budget option for projectors. I've done videos in the past. It's where I started. It's a heavy duty, relatively cheap material that you can project onto. It's very durable. Over time, the wear pattern is very different from premium impact screens. Premium impact screens, as they wear, will tend to kind of scuff up and rough up, and eventually you'll wear a kind of hole in the front of them. Baffle netting and screens tend to kind of pull, they'll stretch in the area where you're hitting most of your shots, and that will mean that that kind of net will start to sag a little bit. So it is a different wear pattern, and if you're using your sim as multi-purpose for things like movies and games, that could be a downside of using the archery baffle netting. But it is cheap, it can be a great way of getting started, and it can be durable. Certainly I wouldn't go back to archery, having been used premium screen for some time now, but we do offer that for people that do want archery screens. On to B. Balls. Balls are very important. Golf ball choice in a simulator can be expensive if you get it wrong. Over the years, I've dabbled with many different golf balls. I've found Vice Pros to be very durable, and I've got a lot in rotation and I haven't cracked a ball for a long time. I find the Pro V1s are extremely durable. They tend to kind of scuff up over, in my case, months of usage, where you kind of wear down the sheen finish on them, but they don't tend to crack. And I also find lately I've been using some of the Swixen ones that have been quite durable. Obviously, this isn't exhaustive. It's the Swixen Z-Stars, I believe it is. The ones that have caused me difficulty in the past, I really like the Callaway Chrome Soft. I like how they feel, but I used to crack a lot of them. This is going back a few years now. Bridgestone B330s, I think it was. Again, I used to crack a lot of those. And the Snell MTBX, it's one of my choice golf balls for outdoors. Indoors, when we tested it with Mevo Plus, they cracked quite quickly, and I even contacted the Snell support department, and they came back suggesting that it's not a golf ball designed for being hit repeatedly in the simulator use in the same spot. So something like where you've got a metal dot, perhaps, which we had with the Mevo Plus, and you're hitting the same spot, that's not a good golf ball. But go out there, seek advice from the community, but there are certainly golf balls that are better suited to the repetition of hitting the same ball again and again and again in a simulator. Otherwise, you might end up replacing them a lot. Baffles. I'll be really quick on baffles. If you design a simulator, it's not always the bounce back from the screen. Often it's the shot that will slide up the screen, a high wedge shot that won't really bounce back. Effectively, it'll slide up and it could come forward and potentially land on an expensive launch monitor or you. That's where often you can have a bit of material that will kind of loop down, pleats, baffles that you'd attach across the screen. And as the ball rolls up, it'll come forward and it'll hit one of those and kind of drop down. Again, there's plenty of designs out there, check it out, but they can be helpful with DIY builds for stopping any balls kind of rolling up and coming forward. Bushnell Launch Pro, I'll be covering different launch monitors. The Bushnell Launch Pro, I believe, is pretty much the same kind of spec as the GC3 in terms of the kind of ball data and capability of it. I don't know if it's available in the UK. I should really check this, but I've only really seen it in the US. But it's a cost-effective, good launch monitor that I believe people have had very good feedback from. And people have managed to use the open interface or the community built interfaces to get it working with things like GSPro, which I'll get onto. So it's a good option for you to consider. It's a camera-based system that will sit on the floor, so it's ideally suited to kind of indoor, smaller simulated spaces, but it's also portable for taking outdoors. So very much like I've got a GC2, it would be something I would consider if I was changing from my GC2. We'll get on to that. Third aspect, but there are subscription plans. You need to look into that. Again, this isn't about covering everything in depth. It's just to give you ideas that you need to consider. And I'll happily do videos. Please put in comments what you'd like me to focus in, and I'll do a video specifically on that topic, maybe on each of these. Bungees. What are bungees? I love bungees. They're so easy to work with. I don't like building things. I don't like doing DIY. These are great. These are ball bungees. Now, bungee cord is just the cord itself, stretchy cord. I only use bungee cord along the bottom of my screen just to be able to give it a bit of resistance to kind of stay in place at the bottom, because I don't fix it at the bottom. Ball bungees I use for fixing the screen to the angle line I mentioned earlier. So all those holes in the angle line, you just push through the bungee cord, flip it round, wrap it round the ball at the end. You could do it twice if you needed to. So effectively, if you had bungees that are too long, you'd wrap it round twice and then you'd hook it round the ball, and that gives you the fixing point at the sides. I fix my screen with 4 ball bungees at the side, and I use tarp clips as the mechanism for putting them through an eye hook and attaching. We'll show you a tarp clip later. But they're great. Ball bungees are great, and they're cheap and affordable, which for DIY builds is fantastic. On to C. And I didn't know whether to put clubs, like golf clubs. They're important. I haven't really got anything to add from a simulator point of view. As long as you've got room to swing all the clubs, if you're limited on height or limited on space and width, you may not be able to use your driver, but just use your clubs. Make sure they're clean if you don't want to mark your screen. I attack my screen from time to time with rage, so cleaning the golf clubs isn't a major concern. Likewise, cleaning golf balls. But if you played outdoors, make sure they are clean. Otherwise, you would end up putting dirt marks on your screen. But is it clubs or coaching? If you're struggling with your game, I deliberately haven't been fitted because I just want to be able to use off-the-shelf clubs and buy them on a whim off of eBay or something. The reality is, go get some coaching. That will really help you. Shane Warren, Shanky Golf, has been a part of the kind of online tours for many, many years. He coaches so many people over at Simulator Golf Tour. Good friend of mine, just the best coach around. If you're wanting any help, reach out to Shane Warren, Shanky Golf. He's the guy to contact, and he'll be able to provide you with coaching, just using your launch monitor data, using FaceTime, using your cameras. He'll just spot what the flaw is, give you some tips, and you'll be sorted quick time. And curtains. In my wide sim, I'm not really going to hit the side. Even the dreaded shank will hit my screen rather than the wall. I've never ever hit the left wall apart from in rage when I've gone and smacked one. And one time it bounced and broke my 4K monitor, which was an expensive mistake. But basically, that left side doesn't really need a curtain or protection. Obviously, you might want to tidy it up so it frames the image and it all looks nice and sexy, but it's not really a concern if you're right-handed, that left side wall. Obviously, if you're right and lefty, you want to handle both sides. And the material that I've used for framing it is just a photography backdrop cloth. It's something cheap off Amazon. It used to be a brand called NEWBIE, N-E-E-W-E-R. I think they still do it. They do it in like big 6 metre by 3 metre. It might be 40 quid. But it's just easy to use. It frames the image nicely. I mean, you have it there, but I've hacked at the screen and got holes in it. Or if it is actually something that you need to use for protection, then having something a little heavier will help. But it's only going to be those kind of dreaded toad or shanks that will potentially hit that curtain. So I wouldn't worry too much about finding dedicated golf simulator material when something that like a heavy curtain should be able to absorb the dreaded shank from time to time. Obviously, if you've got really valuable stuff behind there, like a car, like windows, you know, consider this carefully. Moving on to D, Discord. Love it or hate it, Discord is the best way of engaging with the community and getting lots of information and support if you're using certain software, particularly with the online tours. I'll talk about GSPro shortly. I think it's the best software around, and there's a tour called Simulator Golf Tour. I'll get onto that. Discord is the mechanism for being able to chat with people, have a laugh, have a fight with people online, wind a few people up. But it's a fun environment to be in. Don't be afraid of getting involved. Get your account on there. You can just lurk around and read everything, or you can start getting involved. But if you do want support, there's great guys out there that mean you'll be getting support from the community far quicker and far more informed, I would say, than the Facebook forums. There are plenty out there, but you do get a lot of the repetition with the questions and a lot of opinions that, in my opinion, aren't as well informed as the dedicated community that have been using simulators for many years. So that's Discord. It's just a chat app that you can install on your phone, on your PC, on your Mac, whatever it may be. And dimensions. Dimensions are important. We mentioned aspect ratio, but I always get asked, what is the minimum size for a simulator? And there's no exact answer. Ideally, in the luxury environment, I would say you want 4.5 to 5 meters wide. That way you can stand centrally, you can swing all your clubs. You'd want 2.8 to 3 meters high, so you'd have no restriction on height, however tall you are as a golfer. And you'd want probably, I don't know, 6 meters depth, so you've got room to be able to have some seating maybe where people can put their bags. You can have all your touchscreen monitors. It can be a nice wide space that gives you lots of freedom. Not everybody has that. I don't have that here. At the screen, I think it's only about 2.3 meters high, possibly, or 2.24 or something. Back here, I've got much more space. And in that situation, I said the minimum would be, I'm going to say 3 meters wide, 2.6 to 2.8 meters high. It depends whether you've got a flat swing. It depends how tall you are. If you're tall with a very vertical swing, you're going to need more height than other people. And depth-wise, if you're going to be using a camera system, it doesn't care about the golf ball other than the little bit it captures, maybe that much of flight. If you're using a radar system, then that's not going to work in a small environment because it needs much more ball flight. So you'd want a camera system, and as long as you can swing the club and you're not impacting with wall or screen, a camera system will work. You just have to carefully think, okay, if I hit a high wedge and I'm this close to the screen, it's very likely the ball is going to come back and kind of drop down in this environment. So they're the things you have to think about. But there's no exact answer. Again, contact me if you've got any inquiries and I can point you to other resources. And there's lots on the web where people talk about what is the minimum dimension. Etiquette is E, 1 to E. Couldn't think of anything for E. I was going to mention the Earnest Sports ES16. I thought, no. Yeah, no. And then I thought etiquette. One of the beautiful things with Simulator is you can actually wear what you want when you're playing. No stuffy collar rules or anything. You can listen to music like I do. When you're playing online with people, I mean, I kind of just have a disclaimer, which is I talk a lot. I might be talking during your backswing. I can't see you playing, so I might be talking during your backswing. Most of the time, people don't care, and you can have a bit of fun with it, winding people up, trash talking. But the simulator is a free environment to really have fun and get involved with the online games. I encourage it. On to F. I'm going to go with Foresight Sports. I'm not the biggest fan of their software when it comes to playing courses, taking part in tours, etc. It's massively lacking compared to things like GSPro, which I'll talk about again. But their hardware I'm a huge fan of. From day one, I've been using the Foresight GC2. I'm still using it. It's a reliable piece of technology. Obviously, it's not the latest tech, but it works great for me. And there's some really good deals for getting them used. Watch out for scams. There are people always trying to scam you and tell you to pay by a bank transfer, and it may not be a legit device, but really good option for people that are looking for an excellent launch monitor with high level of accuracy that can work in many environments, but without having to break the bank. In my case, I've got the HMT add-on, but Foresight now have the GC3, they've got the GC Quad, they've got the GC Hawk ceiling mounted system. They're really good devices. Now, there are community built interfaces for allowing these to work, or game interfaces with third-party software, like I mentioned TGC19 and others, but also GSPro. So I'm using my GC2 with it. Official support may come in the future, but you can check out those devices, GC3, GC Quad. They're really good, reliable devices. As I say, from a teaching point of view, I think FSX and FSX, I'm not sure, Play or whatever it may be, can be very good. From a course point of view, in my opinion, it doesn't stack up to GSPro and the amount of courses we've got there. Graphics card. Graphics card's really important. Any PC you're looking at, a few people have come on and said, can I just use this PC? And they put a photo of like an old work laptop from 10 years ago. No, you can't. You might be able to run some basic software or some of the cheaper launch monitors that just shows a really crude graphics driving range. You're not going to be able to run kind of sexy golf courses and take part in world tours in 4K, for example. And you can't just get a latest graphics card and stick it in an old PC. That's not going to work either. You need something that is going to be a gaming PC, and it needs to have a decent level of processing and a decent graphics card. I bust my 3080, the RTX GeForce 3080 card, a little bit of rage, but it hadn't been working for some time, and put one of my old cards, which I think is a GTX, GSX, can't remember, GCX, but I think it's the 1080 card, and actually it's running, well, it might be, yeah, it's in that range, but it's running 4K fine for me, not as quickly, not as high frame rate as the latest ones, but loads of people out there will help with what spec you need. If you're going to get a graphics card, let's call it the 3080, and you get that in a desktop PC, big tower unit like I've got here, if the video shows, with the flashing lights, and you've got a 3080 card in a laptop, gaming laptop, it will be far quicker on the desktop PC because it's the full card as opposed to the mobile card in the laptop. Look online at comparisons and you'll get a feeling for what you need. If you're only running a 1080p, a full HD projector, you may not need to spend big bucks on your PC, but if you're wanting to run full 4K with multiple displays and maybe do a lot of video capture and swing analysis at the same time, you're going to need a good graphics card and a very good PC. And as I say, there's lots of resources out there. On to H, height. We mentioned that with dimensions. In many cases, height might be a limiting factor that just means you cannot build a simulator. Don't underestimate how, when you're doing little practice swings, you think, well, I can do this. When you then go to actually hit a full swing, you can actually reach that bit further, release the arms. I had a customer that did that, built a bespoke room, had measured it all, done lots of practice swings, very first shot, skinned the ceiling and had to raise a temporary area to be able to hit. Now, if you can't raise the whole of your ceiling, you may be able to just dig a little section out. There might be an area of ceiling that actually you can raise, and that will allow you at the top of your swing to be able to swing bigger clubs like maybe 3-wood, maybe driver. So do consider that. But if you're really limited on height, it may be you don't have room for a simulator. You just have to face that fact. Impact screen. I've already mentioned archery. At Hybrid Me, I use and sell the premium impact screen material. It delivers a great image. It's very sharp. It gives really useful for multi-purposing if you want to watch cinemas. Low bounce back. It's not very noisy. And recently I've had a lot of inquiries from people saying I've got a screen that thuds when the ball hits it. Because this is a thick kind of triple layer spongy screen, it does mean that actually it's quite soft. So I think it's a fantastic screen, and we've got them available at Hybrid Me. I sell it raw. What does raw mean? It means it's just a sheet of material. So you use things like tarp clips to be able to clip that screen. So I've shown you the angle line, and you need to figure out how am I going to attach the sheet, and you therefore use tarp clips. I don't recommend the slidey types. They work and they're a bit smaller, but they're a little bit more pernickety, not sure, where you have to kind of get the material in there, pull it tight, and then you push, as I mentioned, the ball bungee, I've got videos on this already, through, wrap it around your angle line and attach the ball around the end, and you've got your fixing. I recommend using the larger tarp clips, which annoyingly, of course, I've misplaced. And there's lots of these available, lots of brands on Amazon, and these ones are bigger, so there's a little bit more kind of fixing to cover up. But you just put the material in there, you tighten the screw, and then once you've got it hanging, and you've got those along the top as well, you can go and adjust the ones to make sure you get a nice even spread. And if you've got a good thick material like the premium stuff we sell, it wants to hang flat. You don't really have to stretch it too much. You just need to open it and support it. Means you don't have to also have it too tight, which helps with making sure you don't get too much bounce back. The ball just kind of hits it and drops down. Whereas some of the kind of other materials like the archery screens and the thinner fabrics, you have to kind of stretch, and you often see them where there's a bit of pooling in the corners and they just don't look as good. So do bear that in mind when you're choosing your impact screen. And the other thing, infrared frames. What is that? Touchscreen, basically. If you want a touchscreen monitor, I've got one here, 28-inch small touchscreen monitor. It cost me about £330. It's not that good colour, it's not that good contrast, but it enabled touchscreen. I had that to begin with. Now you can actually just buy yourself a really good value 4K UHD TV in whatever size you want monitor. I think I got one for £300 that's 55-inch in the sales. Fantastic image, way better than the touchscreen. But it's not touchscreen. Then you can go onto Amazon or somewhere and you can find yourself an IR frame. You have to specify the size to fit the bezel of your screen, which is effectively the frame, and you just connect it together, you stick it on. It's got pads on the back where you stick it to the front of your screen, and you plug it into your PC, and it immediately turns that screen into a multi-touch touchscreen environment, which if your software supports it, like GSPro, means I can now point and click and aim all my shots using that touchscreen. Some people that do coaching like to do it for drawing lines and showing like swing videos when they're coaching. Well worth looking into, and you'll end up paying maybe like £300 plus 200 for the frame, and you'll end up for £500 having a huge 4K touchscreen display, which if you actually go and get a dedicated touchscreen display with its own kind of reinforced glass, you could be paying thousands for that size. Thank you to whichever customer it was that pointed that out many years back. Jay, I struggled on Jay. I said, join in. There's plenty of people that, when I do drop in Discord, kind of say, I'm not ready for the tournaments yet. I'm not ready to kind of join the tour. I'm just kind of, I've built the simulator. I'm learning the game. Get involved. Join the tour. It doesn't matter if someone's got to be last on the leaderboard. Get involved, start playing games, and you will improve over time, and you'll get used to like the pressure of finishing off these tournaments, setting your own PBs. Don't hesitate to get involved. I highly recommend it. And I'm also going to mention John Mayer, Jay. John is just the nicest guy. He's been around on online tours for well over 10 years, starting with OptiShot. On my video, on my YouTube channel, I've got an interview with John. Please check it out. One, I thought it was very entertaining, and I just love chatting to the guy. But he's been hugely, what's the word? It's been very important as part of the tours for making sure that courses are set up right, that there's all of the necessary handicaps. He's still involved, I believe, to some regard. He's not one of the key guys with Simulated Golf Tour, but he's also one of the key designers of the software for designing courses for GSPro. There's a group of guys that got together and built OPCD, Open Platform Course Designer, and John was kind of one of those influential guys. So just a huge thank you for John. That's why I'm mentioning him. K2 Golf Tees. A little while back I got sent these to evaluate, and I think they're fantastic for the simulator usage. You have these tees which are made of very durable material. They can be, most of the taller tees have a little bit of flexibility. You can raise them up a little bit, you can drop them down a little bit, you can get them in custom sizes, you can get a pack with all of them. I only hit driver off of a tee, everything else off the deck, so I don't need the full pack. But for those that do, you can get them from K2 Golf. And you can get the optional tether, which is really, again, really neat, great design, and that will just sit ahead of you. I think it's at 1 o'clock, might be 2 o'clock. Check the website for details. And that will enable you to make sure your tea isn't flying around the room. But I think they're fantastic. It's my recommended tea for golf simulator usage, and I encourage you to check K2 Golf. And I've got a video again on the YouTube channel if you want more details. How are we doing time-wise? 25. I'm going to take some time off the previous one for sure. Lumens. When you're choosing a projector, you need to consider many things. One is budget. You can spend a fortune on them. You can get projectors for £500 that will give you a nice full HD image with enough brightness. Lumens are part of that kind of brightness to be able to play simulated golf, and I did that for many, many years. Likewise, for the best around, a lot of people talk about a BenQ model. You can find it online, a 4K laser, high contrast. You know, it's the best around, but in the UK we might be spending over £6,000 to get that projector, and it's 4K. So you've got that consideration of where do you fit. But you need to always look at the calculator to determine what the throw ratio is, how far back it's going to need to be positioned to fill the image size you want. If you're creating a custom resolution, you need to work out how far back it's going to be to fill the height you need, and then on your computer you'll be cutting off the sides to fit your size. All of that can be done in the calculators on the various projector sites. Yes, I can help you buy a projector, and I can provide you know, I'm not going to be someone that sells you a golf sim projector and then suddenly sticks a kind of £400, £500 margin on, which can happen. I'm just going to say, well, buy it online, get the best price you can. I can give a bit of help, but I'm trying to back away from recommending projectors for everybody because it's time consuming, and at the end of the day I'm not making any money on it if I tell you to do it, and I've got jobs to do and family to deal with. But lumens are important. You know, you absolutely will see the benefit of going to 4K on a big impact screen. Some people question, can you? Yes, you can. If you get a good premium quality impact screen, you do see that. But if it means that you can't see everything and that it's so faint that the lumens just really aren't bright enough to be able to give you a bit of pop off your screen, you may be better off with just going with a full HD image and having it nice and bright, especially if you've got ambient light, windows, things where you can't control the light. So do bear that in mind. That's a whole nother subject projectors. Mats. At Hybrid Me, we sell mats. I'm a mat nerd. There's a video that we've got going way back with me and Shanky Golf, or Shanky Golf and I should say, testing multiple mats. I sell the T40. It's a deep pole T-turf. For me, it is the best mat around in terms of giving you honest feedback. E.g., it won't mask any shots. If you come in fat, you're going to know that you've come in fat and you're going to lose distance. You're not going to get any kind of skid and bounce through to artificially give you a good result. Likewise, it's not as punishing as some of the really, really thick, dense mats that are out there. If you've got existing injuries and a lot of pain and you still need to carry on playing golf because you're addicted to it, which I've done in the past, again, you can check out videos where I've been in agony, but I've still played. And something like a fibre build can be very good. It means the fibres give you a little bit less resistance as you come through. I'm not the biggest fan of how the ball sits up in the fibres, and also the fact that I found it easier to hit wedges and short chips with it, when in fact I'm a real duffer when it comes to my short game, and I felt that it would kind of mask some of the flaws in my game, which may be a good thing for the tour, but it doesn't make me feel good that I'm fixing things. So I like T40. We've got it in various sizes. For those that don't want a full mat or want to save money, we also have it in hitting strips. But go out there and try a few. There's lots out there, depending on your location. Yeah, you know, that's I'm happy to say I'm biased there, but I do use the T40 as well as selling it. So I always think if people are selling stuff, ideally they should be using it as well. If I find a better mat, I'll start selling it. I'll use it. On movies. I was just going to movies. You can absolutely multi-purpose. If you get a good quality impact screen, a good quality projector, if you want to frame it nicely, then yes, you can actually use the same impact screen for watching movies, watching sports. You don't have to go off and have a dedicated kind of drop-down cinema screen. There's no doubt that the impact screen won't quite give you the gain, and probably the level of blackness, is that the phrase, that you would get with a dedicated cinema screen. But then again, I could hit a golf ball at a cinema screen, it'll go through at first shot. So that's where you're at on the compromise, but absolutely good enough to be able to enjoy watching movies and sport with the family. N for net, we've covered that. Archery. I thought I'd have more net, but on the online tours, there is gross and there is net, the other net. And therefore, if you are new to it and you're worried, well, I don't want to finish last all the time, You won't. You go and do Q School. That might be under Q. Q School is the qualifying school for the online tours. You have to do some rounds to be able to establish your handicap. But as you get better at the sim, you will end up winning tournaments. And when you get to a certain level, you'll be bumped up to maybe another tour. Get involved. As I said before, don't worry about it. Who cares about that? And I'm also going to then, let's say, at the end of the day, it's all about gross. You can brag about net, but there's probably a better golfer around there who bettered your score and gross. So every work on the game, I care about gross. But when I won the Open, that was only on net. And I haven't stopped talking about it on this channel. So yes. OPCD, as I mentioned, Open Platform Course Designer. That is the tool that enables you to build courses for GSPro. There's a group of guys that have been involved, and I've shouted them out in previous videos just to say, if you are one of those people wanting to get into course design, there's a whole dedicated Discord channel. There's lots of tutorial videos. And it's really cool. I don't have the patience or the knowledge or the skill to be able to do it. I dabbled in it, I left, I dabbled again, and just realised it's not for me. I'm not capable of doing it to the degree that you want to. But there's guys out there designing courses and releasing them for the community, and thank goodness they do. And it's all down to the great work that the key guys within the OPCD team did. And again, I can do a video on that specifically if it's helpful, but there's stuff out there. And OBS. OBS is like my favourite software ever. This is what I use for the channel. So it enables me to set up different screens, drag them around, have my logo. The website for Hybrid Me is, what am I doing? Up there. That's just taken off the website. I've got 3 different cameras. You position them around. I can then have the game when I'm playing GSPro and put that into there. You know, it's great and it's free. It's Open Broadcasting Suite, I think, or Broadcaster Suite. And you can also stream on YouTube from there. It's just great software. Get involved, use it, you'll love it. And that's for any of the kind of online streaming. I highly recommend it. Also, you can just use it to record every round you play. If you get that hole-in-one and you think, oh, I want to show that on Discord, I wish I had a video of it, you'll have it recorded. So I record every round. I don't publish all of them because there's plenty of embarrassing ones where I've absolutely lost it. I publish the ones that are funny. Some of them are just, they're not meant to see the light of day. They're still on my PC, and one day maybe I'll share them. P for PC, I've already covered that with graphics cards. You know, where possible, get a dedicated desktop rather than laptop. It'll be cheaper, it'll be more powerful, it'll last longer, it'll be putting less stress through the PC itself, so the components should last longer. I highly recommend that. And let me know if you're interested in more in that. P also stands for Patreon. What does Patreon mean? For those, there are some guys that actually is their full-time job. They're designing courses, and some of them are bespoke, where people are commissioning it and they're actually paying for their local course to be designed. There's not many that are approved. You have to be approved by the OPCD guys to show that you can deliver the right quality course, I think, to be able to have your own dedicated course server and some other things. I'm not an expert in this. You need to check with it on Discord and things. But if you want more courses than are available within the GSPro directory, I'll call it, then you can subscribe to these Patreons, the guys that design courses, and they have a lot of courses hidden kind of behind their firewall that you would have access to. You know, I like to play the courses that are all released for the community because my main motivation for playing here is competing against everybody on the tour. If I had the time and thought, well, you know what, I just want to play every course that's designed, I would gladly subscribe to all these guys because they are producing courses and they're releasing many of them to the community. So it is a huge thank you to these guys. Without them, we'd have a fraction of the courses that we have. P is for projector. You know, you need one. I should add, I didn't go to this. I didn't add it as my point. The cheapest way of setting up golf simulation is actually just hitting into a hitting net. Get yourself a good quality hitting net with probably a baffle screen for absorbing drive and 3-wood. And as long as you've got your launch monitor and you've got a PC that's collecting that data, or your phone, if it's one of the kind of more budget-friendly launch monitors that have an app for their phone, then actually you can play on it and you don't need a projector. You don't need to have a big simulator setup. You can maybe use it outdoors. It's a great way of getting started. It's actually how I started for a few months, and then I very quickly knew I wanted one of these. But yeah, it's a good way of getting started. Q's for Q School. As I've mentioned, if you want to play using a handicap on the online tours, you're going to have to go through Q School. It's typically, I think, 4 rounds where you establish a handicap to get started. There's lots of details on that. It's also rage quit. You know, if you're having a bad day, I'm so guilty of this. When I come in here and I'm playing miserably and I'm getting angrier and angrier, before I snap some clubs or throw them at the screen or just go in the house in an absolute state of rage, It's probably not a bad thing to quit. Most of the courses, unless you're doing like an online round or there's restrictions, you can stop halfway and resume the competition later. You certainly can over at simulatorgolftour.com using GSPro. So come back another day and finish it. Now, there's no rules saying you can't. There may be an etiquette question of, just because you're having a bad day, should you be able to stop around halfway? It's the simulating part. I mentioned you can listen to music, wear what you want, you can kind of have fun, as long as you're not, in my opinion, cheating by teeing up the ball on the fairway or trying to disconnect the launch monitor when you hit a bad shot and trying to cheat the system, which there'll be some knowledge out there that may spot you and you might get banned. I don't have an issue if people quit and come back another time. A lot of the time, I just have my kids or my wife phone up and say, "You needed somewhere," and it's like, okay, I have to stop. I'll probably go, "Oh, do I have to?" Anyhow, as for Ryder Cup, the greatest thing, bar none, I've done on simulator golf is participate in the Ryder Cup. And I've been lucky to captain rest of the world against America, I'm going to say like 8 times maybe in the Ryder Cup and on the President's Cup. The way we do it, just because there's so many USA golfers on the online tours, we tend to take rest of the world versus. So we actually have Canada with us and Aussies and Italians. South Americans, we'll take them and beat the US. And I've lost a few. I've won plenty. We won the last one on the 18th, and the final match, the 72nd match, I think it was, on the 18th green with a final putt. That if it had gone in, I think USA would have won it, and we won the last one. I expect a Ryder Cup will be coming soon, and there's no real limitation on the numbers to be involved because we can just set up points and pair it up. But you go through alt shot, you play all the different formats that are available. It is just the best. You have a Discord group where you're all chatting away and you're all cheering each other on, and sometimes you're in the live lobby cheering them on at the same time. It's fantastic, and it's absolutely the best experience, bar none, on simulator golf. Hopefully there'll be another one coming up soon. And I should shout out for Thin Man, who's been my nemesis, the USA captain for, I think, everyone I've taken part in. Moving on, also stands for raw. As I mentioned, there's 2 definitions. Finished material, when you talk about impact screens, has the border, has the eyelets. I find it easier to use raw material than a finished screen because the eyelets are fixed. You have to make sure that those eyelets are exactly the right size you need to be able to fix your screen. If you get raw material, you just fold a bit extra in. If you want it to be tighter, or you loosen a little bit, it just makes it easy to go around and adjust those tarp clips and get exactly the kind of finish you want. And it's a lot cheaper to get raw material, or sometimes it's called unfinished. R stands for radar as well. Radar system. If you're using a launch monitor that is using radar, it will need to sit somewhat behind where you're standing, and it will need to have as much ball flight as possible to be accurate, to be able to give an accurate spin axis, which is the side spin effectively, and probably backspin. You may need to put metal stickers on the ball to help it calculate to read, yes, the backspin. But you mainly would need a lot more space, a lot more depth in your simulator build. That's the downside of kind of radar systems. In an indoor environment, in my opinion, you're better off with a camera system. Whether that's going to be ceiling mounted, if you happen to have a luxury space and a high enough ceiling, there are some really good ceiling mounted ones that will give you some kind of club data, ball data, and it's out the way, meaning lefties and righties can play together, etc. And there's all of the kind of ones that sit on the floor, things like the Foresight, the Bushel Launch Pros, the SkyTrack, I'll get onto, and others. But I'm a fan of camera systems. If you don't have a combination of righty and lefty, I think in an indoor environment, camera systems are the way to go. S stands for Simulator Golf Tour. If you've got a launch monitor that can work with GSPro, get involved on simulatorgolftour.com. If there wasn't a tour site, I might play, and I'd be having to share like screen cards with people and comparing things. I doubt I'd have the motivation to bother. So having that kind of competitive environment is absolutely crucial for my motivation playing. And I mentioned SkyTrack. It's an affordable launch monitor. For the same money you're going to spend on a new SkyTrack, you can pick up used GC2s, and I would go use GC2 every time, just because the SkyTrack has a little delay and there tends to be a little bit less accuracy within the SkyTrack compared to something like, particularly putting shorter chips and those kind of aspects. I haven't got hold of the latest SkyTrack. I know there's other videos on YouTube, so this is like my thoughts based on the original SkyTrack. But I would always look at a GC2, even though it's older technology. As long as it's a device that works and that hopefully you've got a couple of spare flashes, which will last you many, many years into the future. Yeah, that's my personal opinion, but SkyTrack gives you a good option for getting started. There's no official integration between SkyTrack and GSPro. Some of the community out there have built interfaces that allow you to use launch monitors. Check them out. There's various forums where you can ask those questions. To use for touchscreen, as I say, my opinion is, my advice is, don't buy a touchscreen, stick an IR frame on a much better monitor and you'll get that experience. The only situation I might change that is in a heavy used commercial environment, because you're going to have people touching a non-touchscreen telly monitor, and I don't know how long that kind of screen finish would last if people are doing things a little bit aggressively, or there could be other things that happen. In that environment, it might be worth spending extra to kind of get a protective frame on it. I imagine you could probably put some glass or reinforced material across the screen and have the IR frame, and it'd work just fine. So check out all those things before you spend thousands on a touchscreen. T is also for TrackMan. It's the it's the biggest name out there. Unfortunately, TrackMan acquired Jack Nicklaus Perfect Golf back in the day, and they shut down the community of sim golfers, including myself and many others that were part of that community, because they wanted that to be proprietary for TrackMan. That started everything off, and that motivated GSPro to be designed and released, which is now fantastic. From a hardware point of view, again, it's a more premium option. It's great for outdoors. It will read the ball flight the full way. If I was outdoors and practicing all day, I'd love to have a TrackMan. My indoor environment with, I don't know what it is, 2.8 meters of ball flight maybe, or up to 3 meters. The camera system, in my opinion, will be better than TrackMan in terms of spin axis, and it opens up the potential for you my device with GSPro, which is an open community, taking part with all the other guys that are using different launch monitors. I don't really want to be locked into a proprietary system. Just my opinion. Tart clips. I've shown you tart clips. There's different types. As I say, the bigger black ones with the screws are recommended. U is for Unicore. Unicore I hadn't heard of till years back, and it's a Korean company, I believe. And they offer the IXO, it was the QED originally, I think it was Unicore QED. Then they released the IXO. It's a ceiling mounted systems that do offer you impact video as the club's coming through. They support right and left handed. They do have their own software, however, they actually have official integration with GSPro, and everything I've heard has been very good about their level of support. I'd love to have one. I'd love to be able to use one. Anyone's welcome to Unicore, you're welcome to send me one. But and if I ever did upgrade into like my luxury studio, then that would be an option I would seriously consider. They also have the Unicore Mini. I don't know if it's the iMini. I should have checked. Or Exo Mini. I'm not sure. Which is a floor-mounted system, along with to compete with the guys like the SkyTracks, the Bushnell, the Do's and GC3s and GC quads and those kind of things. But yeah, worth considering the Unicore. A lot of people speak highly of it. V can only be for V8 Burble. Does it need any explanation? Probably does, but that's me. That's me. I couldn't think of anything else for V. Victorious! Occasionally I'm victorious, not very often. W is for World Golf Rankings. Anyone that takes part in the online tour, you're competing for various points. My motivator is this massive list of everybody that plays, which is the World Rankings, and the rankings aren't perfect. Right now there's a pool of points that the web guys keep getting, but it's my motivation, and it means that I come back out playing every week. X, I struggled with X as well. Extraordinary players. There are some really, really good golfers on the tour. Pros and ex-pros. One or two guys that have taken part in the US Open, I believe, and made the cut, I think, as well. And this is on the Simulated Golf Tour. Over on the other tours, there'll no doubt be very good golfers. You know, you're not going to be winning things unless you're playing on net or playing on the lower tours. That's fine, accept it. Go out there and try and better yourself. And occasionally you might get lucky and grab a prize. Y is for YouTube. Obviously there's Twitch as well and other platforms, but a lot of people are sharing stuff on YouTube. There's guys like Ralph Perkins, who's put a huge amount of effort into doing tutorial videos. I wanted to give Ralph a shout out. I thought, rather than I'll do it under YouTube. Check out his channel. If you are using GSPro, he's got a video for everything you need to know about GSPro, every little aspect of it, and it will answer all your questions about how do I do this, how do I do that. Please check them out. He's put a huge amount of effort into that. And Z is sleep. I went through years whereas I would play, probably have a couple of bottles of wine. I'd be playing till like 2, 3 in the morning against the Americans. Get up early, play against the Australians. Yeah, I should have had a bit more work ethic, but I was doing that. At the end of the day, after it's all said and done, you've had a bad day, gone to bed upset because maybe the golf simulation hasn't gone well. Sleep it off, come back another day, and there's always, I mean, that's what gets us back in golf, isn't it? It's a frustrating sport. It kills me. I shot 111, I keep saying 2 weeks back, went into the simulator and shot 2 under or 3 under. I think it's 3 under the very next day. You know, however bad that day is, sleep it off, come back. There's a better day ahead. That's me done. I would have missed stuff. Please comment if you like this. If it's useful, please share it on the forums. I don't really want to have to self-publicise. I don't like doing that. But if you think this is useful, please share it with others. But I'm always keen to get your feedback. And of course, if you want an impact screen, if you want a mat, if you actually want some help with your environment or want me to spend a day with you building it, there's a consultancy package. Get in touch and we can discuss all that. Thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. Oh, stop recording.